I am the co-founder and CEO of Lervana Labs. We are a deep tech company based in the Bay Area, and we work in three continents in the world, North America, the Middle East, as well as Asia. We, in particular, develop middle layer multimodal, multilingual language-specific models that can focus on multilingual learners, migrant populations, refugee and asylum seekers that are currently in all of these public school systems in these three continents, and they are struggling with teachers that are also burnt out facing this diverse population. And so I'm very excited to be speaking with you today, very honored to be a part of the MIT Solve Learner cohort in 2024. My better half is Dr. Alexandra Chen, who is ex-United Nations UNICEF as well. She is the humanitarian nonprofit part of the solution. I am the tech part of the solution. It is a partnership between a Silicon Valley AI company and a nonprofit serving Syrian refugee children in Lebanon that is the winning solution. Our solution name is called Yeti Confetti for Refugees. Yeti Confetti is, just very quickly, a celebration of I don't know yet. The word yet added to this phrase, I don't know, is what we're celebrating. And so that's why we're called Yeti Confetti for Refugees.
I'm Azra Ismail. I'm one of the co-founders of MakerGhat. We are a nonprofit based in India, and I'm also an academic. So I'm faculty at Emory University as part of the AI Humanity program. So I kind of straddle the worlds of social impact and also research, and that's kind of the perspective that I bring. My training actually was in computer science and human-centered design. And my co-founder, Aditya Vishwanath, he also comes from the world of academia and the startup world. So he did his PhD in the learning sciences from Stanford, and we started MakerGhat together. So a little bit about MakerGhat. So we're a 6-year-old nonprofit focused on building hands-on learning skills among young people. One of the biggest challenges in India right now is youth unemployment. So you have all of these young people who are doing 16 plus years of schooling and entering the workforce and struggling to find a job. And a big reason for that is that the education system has not prepared them for practical skills and has not been able to adapt to the needs of the workforce. So our solution really is to empower teachers who are often kind of struggling to guide students in this journey. And we have a holistic program that includes in-person training and curriculum materials and such as well. But we also have a tech solution that supports the execution of the program. So it's called Maker Dost, and Dost means friend or companion in Hindi. But the idea is that you now have this Maker companion as a teacher who can help you kind of integrate a culture of hands-on learning, get access to contextualized training and curriculum resources in your local language that can help you execute the program. So that's a little bit about us, and looking forward to sharing more.
So, well, I'm Eric. I'm very excited to be here today, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm the founder and CEO of Musa. We are a Peruvian-based company that delivers micro learning content especially to workforce in Latin America, to train the workforce in Latin America. We create this personalized experience of learning, and we deliver it specifically via WhatsApp. And we do this, or we choose to do it in a WhatsApp rather than on a different application, because this workforce in Latin America has low digital skills and has a lot of upskilling and reskilling needs. And they, and adding to that, probably they also have like poor infrastructure, poor internet access, So we chose to do it on WhatsApp in order to eliminate friction on the learning curve of learning a new application or downloading a new application. And we've worked with companies to create this specific training needs that the company has. It could be anywhere from a procedure, it could be like a leadership program, it could be whatever the company needs these people to have or to train. We've created these learning courses on this learning path. We're mostly based, well, we're based in Peru, and we have active projects in Chile and in Mexico so far, but we've mostly deal with Latin American market. What else? I have a background in system engineer. I have a master's degree in computer science as well, and I have like 12 years of experience in telecom and IT companies creating different products of well, telecom and IT products. So yeah, pleasure to be here.
Hello, Cornelia. It's a pleasure to be here with you and everyone here. So my name is Ifwa Gambra. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Craft Education. Craft Education is based in Ghana, and we're improving learning outcomes of children with behavior challenges like autism and ADHD by facilitating collaboration between parents, teachers, and therapists. by facilitating collaboration. So yeah, I'll just describe the solution a little bit and how it's being used right now.
Amazing.
I'm sorry, I have to go deal with my toddler. I will be back soon.
No worries. Would somebody like to start maybe with giving a very practical use case? Because I know that you all prepared your pitches, which is fantastic, but like a really practical case to illustrate what it means practically.
I can jump in first. We are a deep tech AI company, and we have had, one of the most rewarding experiences that I have had since starting the company and seeing it go live in both classrooms and refugee camps. We're live in classrooms in New York City's public schools, where there are more than 10 languages spoken in one first grade classroom. And these are 5, 6-year-old children that have come in, and they're speaking the native language, Spanish, Arabic, Vietnamese, Hmong, Croatian Creole. And the teachers that are teaching them have all sorts of intervention programs and tools that have gone into classrooms, but have not been able to close that gap that is very critical in early childhood, right? We talk about school readiness, learner confidence when they're 5, and we talk about passing the literacy tests when they're 3rd grade. And there's been so many literacy interventions that, tech has developed over the years. But what we see as the paradigm shift with AI coming in is twofold. The first is that the AI models can speak human-like language and be trained to speak with positivity and encouragement to the child, translanguaging between the native language of the child and English. And so in a first grade classroom in New York City, currently in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem, Manhattan, all over the city, Yeti is translanguaging and explaining every single mathematical concept that a first grader is learning in classroom, while the teacher steers the AI model to deliver the learning objective or unit of the week. This human in the loop steerable model helps teachers understand that the intervention tool is not external to their instructional materials or their goals or their lesson plan of the day. The lesson plan of the day is seen using AI vision, and then Yeti translates that into practical practice assessments, and explanations in oral language, trans-languaged to the native needs of the student, so that the teacher can actually carry out class. We've had multitudes of teachers, you know, and as we know, burnt out and struggling to really help these students. And we have about 45,000 such migrant, refugee, asylum seeker students in New York City alone. And obviously they're facing more problems and concerns nowadays. And it is not different than the refugee children that we served in Lebanon, the Syrian refugee children in Lebanon that we have served since 2023 that won us the MIT Solve Award. Those children have been out of school since the day they were born. And in Lebanon, in the nonprofit partnership that we have with Dr. Alexandra Chen's organization, Juzor, the nonprofit's goal was to get the students school ready so that they can assimilate and enter the Lebanon public school system, so that it's not a social economic baggage having been in a country displaced for so long, so that they can be productive, so that they can engage in class. And so, you know, another paradigm shift that I am seeing, you know, having been in deep tech and tech for so long, is that this specific language model with specific knowledge base behind it can bridge the gap for students like Syrian refugees in Lebanon that are trying to learn Arabic and English math and get into the public school system quicker. The same way that this particular language model with the New York City curriculum steered by New York City teachers on the fly can do the same in New York City classrooms. And we are seeing that happen as well in the Philippines, Thailand, and Hong Kong, where we also serve nonprofits and schools and community centers. So to me, those practical application in classroom with teachers that can easily steer models so that the front-end application serves the exact needs of the students in such diverse environments is really exciting. That is a really big game changer. And, you know, we've spoken to teachers and they've essentially told us that they've been thrown scalpels a lot of times. Like they are a general physician given a scalpel, like a very fancy tech tool, AI being one of them, and then expected to perform heart surgery all the time. Teachers have been thrown all sorts of latest breakthroughs, new curriculum, new instructional methodology to try to bridge the gap of literacy and early childhood learning gaps over and over again. But for the very first time, it's no longer a scalpel being thrown at them. It is an assistant. It is an agent that they can speak to in their own language without jargon, without having to look at data charts and graphs, and be able to carry out data-driven, purposeful instruction differentiated for each learner, still aligned to the common weekly unit that they're trying to teach in the classroom. So I would say that's the most practical application that excites us in our work.
Very cool. Who wants to get next?
Jump in. So we've been using AI for almost a year now. And we use it specifically for two main solutions. So the first one is in order to create this learning path, it's like this personalized learning path for the companies. We had this instructional designer, right, who takes the input of the knowledge, and that can be, I don't know, a PDF or a video or whatever this knowledge is saved, and she used to transform it, do it manual work in a learning path, in a script, and design the images and the videos for this course. This could take a couple of days if this was a short course. Right now, we can do that in a couple of hours tops, because we basically automatize 90% of the work, and the instructional designer only has to like make small tweaks on the final version of the course. So that's like increase the productivity of our instructional designer by a lot. And the second one, and the most impactful for us, is that we are creating these mentors, these AI mentors that are trained specifically for the training needs that these people has. So, for example, we're working with this bank in Peru. That this bank has a lot of clients, but this specific segment that we're tackling is these little small businesses that struggle to I don't know, to have better productivity on their businesses, and you know, they don't have much access to credit and or financial products. So the bank is creating this whole learning experience in order to help their final clients to get, I don't know, better information, knowledge on financial, how to have good finances in entrepreneurial courses, in order to help them to get better at their business. And if those customers get better at the business, they're probably gonna buy more for the bank. But it's a win-win solution for the company, for the company and for the small businesses. And with the use of AI, we've seen an increase of almost 40% in the learning rates. This is across all of our projects, but specifically with this. And we are right now, we have like this small pilot of 7,000 entrepreneurs, but if this goes well, this is an active project that is going until I think it's May. This should scale up to 1 million people here in Peru. So this is just one application. The other one I wanted to tell you about is that we are working with this big multilateral organization that work with kids, right? And they've created this this manual. This has 180 pages of how to parent without violence, and we've transformed this PDF of almost 200 pages that no parent is ever gonna read, and we are delivering it in a way that parents can assimilate that information in a more without friction and in a different way of besides reading a PDF. And we also here have this AI assistant that can tackle the questions and can answer questions about, hey, I don't know, is yelling to my son, is that violence, right? So they can get like instant feedback of whatever they are thinking, of whatever questions they have. So we've been doing this AI personalized AI assistance across all of our projects, and I cannot address the importance that it has to have this companion, even if it's just for like answering 2 questions. That itself creates, and we train the mentor in order to be like very reflective companion, in order to like, you give me an answer, but in my answer I ask you a question. So this is a very interactive way of communicate with our final customer. So yeah, this is just 2 of our big projects that we're working right now in using specifically AI.
Okay, very cool. Anyone else?
I can go next. I'm back. Okay, so I learned we're answering how like specific ways in which we're using AI in our solutions. So I can share what we're excited about. So I'll share a very recent example. Okay, first I have to talk about the solution because where I was interrupted. So essentially, we have a mobile application, right, that we call Hono, which means to see or to know in Akan. That's one of the main local languages in Ghana. So essentially, we want people to, gain insights and know more about the situation and how they can help children with behavior challenges, generally build life skills. So we have a mobile, the web application, which is essentially for therapists and therapy centers to manage cases, and they can also conduct assessments on the application. And then to enable them and also help individual parents or caregivers and educators, we have a WhatsApp chatbot that is AI driven to help them. So essentially, we chose WhatsApp, like Eric, to reduce the barrier to, learning a new tool, downloading an app, just reduce the friction of that. WhatsApp is one of the most popular chatbots in Africa, so that's why we chose it. So right now, what it's doing for parents is that parents are able to screen their children, they're able to access or ask the bot to help them create activities. They're able to learn more about what their children are going through and what they can do as parents to help them. And they're also able to, ask it about their personal well-being, because that was one of the struggles of parents, that they essentially don't have an outlet for themselves, and also how do they get better, essentially, how do they cope and thrive in their own situation. So yes, and then the interesting thing I wanted to talk about was crisis management. So that's one of the options they're able to select when they go on the board, like, what do you want to do today? Crisis management is one of the options. So we were at a therapy center just this Friday to do some user testing and feedback collection. And we were asking them to rate like what's really important, the most important features to them. And internally, we were kind of expecting screening to be at the top. But what came, up front what came to the top for them was crisis management. So we're like, oh, this is very interesting. Can you share with us why this is coming to the top for you? And what they shared with us was that essentially, if the chatbot can address parents' concerns immediately, my child is banging their heads on the wall, what do I do? In that moment, let's say it's 10 p.m., it's 1 a.m., they don't have access to the therapist at that time, right? So if a bot, which is virtually awake 24/7, is able to help them with that, then they would appreciate that. So that's one concrete use of AI that we're using right now that we're excited about.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share or answer follow-up questions if you have some. But yeah, so in our context, we've been focusing specifically on India and specifically on working with teachers. And the thing that we've seen is that a lot of teachers in India, given the number of languages that you have, given just the diverse populations from state to state, don't have the resources they need to be able to adapt to their students' requirements. So they often get materials that are developed maybe for urban environments, maybe in English, or maybe in a more dominant language, and they don't have resources to be able to adapt that, and kind of making that situation worse is the fact that the system as a whole is focused on rote learning, when the education sphere is trying to push for more experiential learning and more kind of hands-on learning. So where our solution kind of fits in is trying to reduce some of that burden on the teacher of like having to adapt and having to learn all this new kind of pedagogical practices. So our focus is really on kind of creating a companion that can reduce that stress and make that burden somewhat lighter. We're very conscious that teachers have a lot on their plate. It's very easy for another solution to make the work worse and just increase their burden. So our focus is on kind of trying to keep the system as kind of natural as possible, and we end up using WhatsApp as well. But we also have been building a mobile app version for teachers who might prefer a different interface. But really, what the system does is just give them access to customized content in their regional language that adapts to the environments that they're teaching in, gives them the curriculum they need, gives them the materials they need, gives them the training they need, and then also provides them with feedback. So let's say a teacher has done a class, it's on electricity. Typically, she does a class that's very kind of lecture heavy. She now has an activity that she can do with local materials. She can also then upload what the results were of that session and get feedback on that. So those are the kinds of solutions and kinds of examples we've been trying to provide for our teachers, but being very conscious of just everything else that they have to deal with and trying to keep it as lightweight for them as possible.
And what have been like, and this is a question again for everybody, but what have been like the biggest challenges that you had to overcome? And whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Sure. I'll go first. This is the last time that I'll go first, I promise. I think the largest challenge being a global trans-Pacific company for us is making sure that the outputs that come out of pre-trained specific models with knowledge base that we've already sort of utilized to add, cultural, language, and context lenses to, don't come out with biased and inaccurate outputs. So I'll give you an example. In our sphere of learner suite and the learner suite, we cover literacy, mathematical reasoning, computational thinking, and social emotional learning. Right, so that's the content that we have, that we support. And we are content and curriculum agnostic, which means the teacher can come in and actually fine tune what comes out on the other end to the student. So we have this very broad scope, multi-curriculum, about 200 plus curriculum, topic, skill, scope and sequence, adaptable model. And one of the things that our refugee teachers in Lebanon that were teaching Syrian refugee children told us one day was that we need to stop using blueberries in our examples. And I was like, well, why is blueberries a problem? They don't have blueberries, so we need to use strawberries. So I have to teach the model, again, in Kenya, another example, A is not for apple, A is for animal. Another example in Hong Kong, where we're sort of teaching, social emotional learning. And we have an in-house play therapist that, does a lot of the model training for us to make sure that it is as, sort of aligned, evidence-based, aligned to sort of play therapy protocol and what is sort of the developmental stages of a child, what they would understand and what they would not. And it's typically, simulations in our SEL content where, the AI models come out, simulate characters, and they portray fight, flight, freeze responses, because that's typical of what a 3 to 8 year old would do according to the Piaget theory of development. But in the East Asian context, fight is rarely a viable response. In fact, that tends to be labeled wrong. And so it's either flight or freeze. Nobody chooses fight. And so it gets into this whole aspect of, well, I'm trying to exercise the child's social emotional muscle, not talking about what's morally correct or incorrect, but there are values and culture nuances, right? So the what you would want, to sort of mimic in a really, really amazing, teacher learner companion, AI falls short in these areas. So I would say, being culturally responsive is something that we're thinking very hard about. We are a deep tech company, so we've built this middle layer that can plug and play into all sorts of foundational models. And we have all these foundational models, outputs, and we grade them to try to see which one is better, which one is more culturally responsive if given the right lens and knowledge about the end user. So that piece is both fascinating but also extremely challenging for us. It's not consistent. There's not a clear winner. Even in any particular region, if we chose a foundational model that's developed out of that region, it still doesn't seem to always give us the best cultural, contextually appropriate outputs. So that I would say is the biggest barrier for us, because we're thinking of a tool that closes gaps. And a lot of times, a student sitting in a classroom or a teacher teaching a 40-person room, the biggest barrier for that human connection to happen is the cultural language barriers, and we really do not want to augment that.
Anyone else?
I can maybe add to that because we face similar challenges on the language front as well. So I think there are like three key areas that we're foreseeing a lot of challenges. So one is just in terms of the fact that especially if you're working on generative AI, if you're working with large language models, typically the larger models are going to be better performing. They're also more computationally heavy. They are more expensive to run. If you're a nonprofit or if you are working in the global south, it can be really hard to host and support this kind of AI system. So that's one aspect where we've kind of consistently seen challenges, because a lot of our model decisions then end up being shaped by how expensive it is to use that model. The other piece that we've seen consistent challenges are, like Christy mentioned, around language. So even within India, you have some languages on which models work really well, and on others where it isn't as well performing because maybe there's less data on it. Maybe this is a language that hasn't been focused on at all in AI research. And that again is a consistent issue, and that's not even considering all the cultural kind of relevance that is missing often from these models. And that then comes to kind of the third point, which is your performance is only going to be as good as your knowledge base. So you want to be able to essentially give the right information that this model is going to be extracting text from, right? So if it's a curriculum focused application, you want to make sure that you have high quality curriculum that is contextualized, that is in the relevant context, and building that takes time and resources, and that's really kind of a big undertaking for a lot of organizations. So those are kind of three key areas that we've been focused on trying to find solutions to, but that's something that we keep seeing being a problem.
Yeah, and I would add, in the line of the first idea of Asra, the lack of professionalized professionals, professional developers specialized in using AI and training AI. This is a very hot topic, and every big company is paying a lot of money for them. And as a small startup, we are not only competing with big companies in Peru, but also these developers. Actually, not all of them, but a lot of them are working for American and European companies that pays a lot more than we can afford. So that's also a very big challenge for us to try to find a really good developer and that we can actually afford.
Yeah, our challenges are pretty much aligned or similar across the board. To add to what everyone has said, I mean, we have the problem of what Christy was sharing about localization. So when we were talking to the therapy center on Friday, the owner of the center was like, "Oh, I'm seeing gardening as an activity suggestion here. I don't have a garden in my house." Like how many Ghanaians have gardens? So yeah, like really localizing and making it relevant for the context. And essentially that's why we set this up, because when it comes to behavior therapy, really there's very little content that's actually developed for the continent. So that's actually one of our biggest challenges. So we're now trying to work with a few therapy centers that are around to see what they have done, what they have used that has worked, so that we can incorporate it into the models to actually generate locally relevant content for our users.
Now, if we were to say best case scenario, if you were to beam yourself into the future 10 years, what will have happened?
I can try to take a stab at it. But
Go ahead also.
I see that you've unmuted, so maybe you should go first. Oh, okay. Sure. So I think one of the things that we've been thinking a lot about in our organization is how do we move to a point where um, we have somewhat more autonomy when it comes to building or leveraging models that can be contextualized for our specific settings. So right now, like we discussed, a lot of us are dependent on these larger models that are built mostly in the US or in countries that are more resourced, and it makes it very difficult for smaller organizations, especially if you're in a developing country, to run these models, and it's also not necessarily relevant to your context. So I think, kind of a world where we have more efficient, but also more local models. And we're seeing, for instance, in India, there's a lot of activity around building local capacity, both in terms of having more people who are trained on AI, and then also having more kind of focus on building models for local languages. So I'd love to see a world where we see more of that, because a lot of our problems will be addressed. We can see a lot more interesting solutions that work really well if we can get to that place. But I'm hopeful that in 10 years we'll see a lot of activity there. So yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So I'd say that I don't know, in 5 or 10 years, probably we're gonna see a lot of personalized learning services that adapts to the specific needs of each individual. So different people learn different, and we start to see this. If I don't know, maybe I am more of a visual person, and I learn more of seeing videos. But I don't know, Astra, Christy might enjoy learning, reading or listening to a podcast. It's the same content, it's the same material, but delivered in a different way, specialized for that or personalized for that specific individual. So I think that's what's going to happen with this with a lot of learning services, or where is the interest is going, and the impact, especially with what we're trying to do in Musa, is we're trying to close the gaps between these very well-educated professionals that works and have high-paying jobs, and the frontline workers who maybe they didn't even finish high school. So the opportunity and what we're hoping that it doesn't happen is with these services actually like higher the bar to access good quality education. So we're expecting that it works in the opposite ways, right? To democratize, as our mission states, to democratize access to good quality education and specialized education, especially for these frontline workers. So yeah, I would say that's probably our best case scenario.
Anyone else?
I was going to wait for Efua to go first because I've taken the first place for so many times. Gosh, it's really hard to say what is going to happen in 10 years because of the velocity that AI has sort of shifted the world in the past 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 days. So it's very difficult to say, but if you ask me, I keep a constant. I have 3 children. So I have a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. So 10 years later, they're going to be 15, 16, and 18. So one of them are probably, hopefully, maybe, perhaps, entering university. And I'd imagine that their world is quite different. My ideal outcome is per the World Economic Forum. I think every year they publish a future of work report. I think since GPT 2.5 came out commercialized, that list of skills that employers are going to be looking for completely flipped, and it has not gone back since. And just looking at that list, they also started in 2025 publishing jobs that are highly unable to be substituted by AI. And, among that list, the top 5 careers that will not be substituted by AI anytime soon. First is teacher, mentor, coach. Second is therapist and social workers. Third is environmentalists. Fourth is artisans. I think fifth is construction and plumbers, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the list off the top of my head. But I think if I beam myself 10 years later and we really are living in utopia, then at least teachers, mentors, and coaches should be paid a lot more because they're not substitutable. That would be what I would say. I don't know where the company is going to be. I don't know how far AI would have brought us in the future of learning journey. I don't know, but I presume that everyone learning becomes a habit rather than an institutionalized activity. I would love my daughter, who's 5 now, to just forget about the words I don't know and be always able to say, if someone asks them, do you know blah, 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 to always say, I don't know yet, but I have a way to find out. That is not linked to institutions that she is at or not at, peers that she has or does not have, right? So that's the why we called Nirvana is learning nirvana, which is extremely cheesy, by the way, but it is about making learning a practice and habit of your daily life. And I think that's possible. That's possible. But I'd also like to see teachers getting paid the most in the world.
Beautiful. If there would be one thing that you could say to the teachers that are right now really, really worried about AI, like I have spoken to so many professors and teachers, and they're like, what would be the one thing that you would tell them to embrace it?
I would say that the teachers that made an impact in my life, the teachers that we all collectively in the room, this is universally true every time I speak at any event or with any group of humans, the teachers that we remember in our lives that has made an impact with us had a connection with us. And I quote my 8-year-old daughter, GPT is very cool, but I don't want to be friends with it. So there is no human connection, there is no wonderful teacher. If you are a teacher that fall in love with teaching, not because of anything else, but to have an impact on a child's life, you found the right calling and you will not be substitutable per the World Economic Forum anytime soon.
Efwa, Adra, Eric, the one takeaway for your teacher?
You know, after what just Christy just said, I don't know, it's was so beautiful and touching, but I will say, embrace it, embrace it. I think AI is here to help the students, but to help the teacher as well, to reduce a lot of work, manual work they're doing, to grading and to create resources, all that stuff that takes a lot of time. I would say AI is there to help you, But as Christy mentioned, the connection that you're gonna need to really transmit and to teach and to connect with your students, I think that's irreversible.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much more to add. I think just wanna echo that sentiment. I think for teachers, it's really the human connection that's the most critical aspect of a child's life. So it kind of is an opportunity to maybe kind of reconfigure what teaching means and what the role of a teacher is in a classroom. And this is not necessarily unique to having AI in the classroom. This is something that experts in the learning sciences and education have been saying for a long time, that the role of the teacher is not to lecture or instruct, it's really to facilitate learning and really to be a mentor and a kind of a companion in the classroom. So I think it's an opportunity to flip the script and get creative. So I'd love to see teachers do a lot more of that and use this as an opportunity to rethink what their role is in a classroom environment.
100% what everyone has said. That human connection, I don't think anything can replace it. So essentially, that's what the future is going to be about.
Beautiful. So in a way, and I'm sure I'm summarizing this in a very imperfect and simplified way, but it's much less about the what, the future of education and the teacher's role, but it's much more about the why and the who. And in a way, maybe the role of the teacher of the future is not so much about channeling content, but much more about conveying values and maybe also more and more stepping into the role of a role model and of the one who inspires the student to actually identify and reveal their own best self, which is something that is maybe the only distinguishing factor in the future between the human and the machine, but which makes that human being unique and stand out, no matter where AI is going to take us. And which might also come back to what's the kind of career advice that you can give a young person today, where AI is gaining ever more ground and is gaining ever more traction in roles that seem to be immune from technology, from lawyers via doctors to artists. And in that sense, maybe that inspirational piece that humanity is also missing, that will take more front and center stage, which then brings us back to hybrid intelligence, which is the complementarity of natural and artificial intelligence. So is there anything that we haven't covered, anything that you guys want to chip in at? I mean, you're welcome to also reach out via LinkedIn or email if there are additional points. It's a topic that is very, very close to my heart. So yeah.
I would just mention that I loved your article about hybrid intelligence. That was one of the key pieces that I made my entire team read during our TGIF meeting last Friday.
Thank you.
Well,
Olivia, is anything that you guys want to add?
let me maybe I'll add quickly about especially Africa and the availability of data and training models. So when you asked about the, when we think 10 years, 5 to 10 years down the line, that's what I was thinking about, because that's one of our struggles, like I mentioned earlier. So essentially making the investments that are, necessary to be able to get the data in our local context. And I'm sure it's not just an Africa problem, right? And for us, that's also one of the things that we're exploring, to make our data open, because essentially without data, we won't have much to talk about. Yeah.
And if I can just jump on that, how are you ensuring that the data is approximately unbiased?
I was going to say I enjoyed reading your article about bias. So that's one of the ethical considerations that we're thinking about. So one of the ways I think that we can essentially make data unbiased is to collect as much as possible, right? The more diverse it is, the more representative it is. So yeah, that would be my take on that.
Amazing. Then it has been an absolute delight. And I look forward to hear and see maybe more of your respective journeys as we continue to navigate an uncertain future.